What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the lab with another quest build. I have a very special blueprint for y'all in this video because this thing right here has shades of my favorite players of all time in the history of the game of basketball. It is going to be an oversized 2-guard that can be a primary ball handler. It can be a #1 scoring option. It can be the key guy on defense to go guard the opponent's best player. This thing is an all-purpose Swiss Army knife that can do basically whatever you want it to do on the wood. It has shades of the players that I modeled my game in real life after, which was Jason Kidd, Joe Johnson, and Michael Jordan. This thing right here is the all-around threat. I've been wanting to cook this build up for quite a while. I've seen some other versions on YouTube, but this thing right here really has that primary creator aspect to it like Jason Kidd. It has the demeanor and scoring ability of Joe Johnson, while also having like that late Bulls era Michael Jordan into the Wizards era of Jordan not really relying on his dunking ability, but just outsmarting his opponents and then just being straight up more skilled than the person across from him. This thing really does feel like JJ and MJ from a scoring perspective. It can really shoot the pill. It has great post game while attacking the cup without that elite athleticism anymore. So this thing right here is going to be a skill-based build that if you're really nice behind the sticks, you're going to impact the game in a ton of different ways. So let's jump right in. You're going to make this a shooting guard. You're going to be 6'8", 235 pounds with a 7'2" wingspan because we need that 88 3-ball. And we're actually going body shape defined on this build. If you follow the channel, you know I like to be built because I want to look menacing on the wood. But we want to be defined on this build because we want to be a little bit more graceful like MJ or 40-year-old Joe Johnson, who looks to have found the fountain of youth with his hot yoga. So follow along to a T to get this all-around threat name at 6'8", and then tinker at your own discretion in your builder to cater to your play style. But we're going to go over some of the name threshes to get this. Starting out with close shot, we're going to get this to an 85. That's going to be a badge thresh and to get the name. We're going to get our driving layup to a 92. You need this at least at a 91, I believe, to get this all-around threat name, or it'll change it. 92 is the badge thresh. We're going to get our driving dunk only to a 40. It might be kind of hard to trigger those driving dunks, but it's not going to be necessary on this build because you're not just trying to yam everything. You're going to be more outmaneuvering your opponent instead of just relying on your athleticism and the cheese in the game. We're going to be punting standing dunk, but you are going to get your post control to an 80 because we want that Hall of Fame post spin technician. That's going to give us 16 finishing badges. I would also recommend throwing some plus badges at finishing just because you do want to try to utilize the ability on the block, backing down smaller guards, get that in the wing type post area. And you are going to have nice post control on this build, so when you do use that Hall of Fame post spin technician, when you're attacking the cup, you're going to be able to maneuver and finish amongst the trees and just, take what the defense gives you. Like MJ on the Wizards, he's not dunking on everybody anymore. And like Joe Johnson, after Jerry Stackhouse pushed him off the rim on that dunk, which changed the trajectory of his career, these guys don't need to beat you with all-world elite athleticism. Also, like Jason Kidd, who's not the most elite athletic point guard, these guys are beating you with their mind and their skill and playing a good homegrown brand of basketball. And then jumping over to shooting, we're going to get our mid-range to an 81. That's going to give us that Hall of Fame midi magician. And then we're going to max out our 3-ball to an 88, and then get our free throw to a 70 to round that out. That's going to give you 24 shooting badges. It's going to be an absolute lethal shooter from all 3 levels. That midi magician on Holliv can create your own interior arc scoring. You can really unlock that Joe Johnson, Michael Jordan mid-range game while also being that stretch from the floor. It's a crazy shooter beyond the arc, gold catch and shoot. And you're going to be able to allocate a lot of Hall of Fame Tier 1 badges on this. Is an absolute scoring weapon. And to get this name, you do need that 88 3-ball and at least an 80 mid-range to trigger the all-around threat name. And then playmaking, we also need our pass accuracy to at least an 86. Max out our ball handle to an 89, and then get our speed with ball to a 74. Speed with ball is not as crucial to get this name on this build, but if you do want more playmaking badges, you can definitely allocate accordingly. You can also get it all the way to a 77 to trigger another badge, but we're going to allocate some things elsewhere. You do need the ball handle, I think at least an 88, and the pass accuracy to an 86. But this is going to give us 23 playmaking badges. You get Hall of Fame quick first step, Hall of Fame passing attributes, gold needle threader. You can break your man down in ISO situations, or you can be that primary creator like Jason Kidd. And then like Joe Johnson, when you do start to go to work in that midi post game, they're going to start throwing double teams at you. You can make the right play and just be that primary creator. And then defensively, we're going to get our interior defense to a 61. This is a very well-rounded build. We're going to get our perimeter defense to an 88. That's going to be the key to get this kind of two-way name at the 2. We also need our steelies a little bit higher, but we're going to get this to a 74. Get our block to a 75 because we want those gold chase downs. We want to be able to impact the game when someone gets a step on us or in help side situations. And then we're going to get our defense rebound to a 74 as well. That's going to give us 19 defensive badges, a very well-rounded wing type defender, great perimeter defense. You're not skimping out on the steelies or blocks, so you can make those splash plays as well. You can help out on the glass when you get an opportunity, and if you do get switched up, onto a big, you're going to be able to hold your own down there with a 61 interior D. You're not going to be an absolute squish. And at 6'8", 235, the hitbox is going to be nice and sound. And so very well-rounded defensive build, and to get that all-around threat name, you're going to need to unlock that two-way name, which is that 88 perimeter D with a little bit of steely. And then physicals, this is where some of you might want to change it up a little bit. We're only going to get our speed to a 68, get our acceleration to a 70, keep our strength at a 42, get our vertical to a 65, and then put the rest on stamina to an 81. That's going to give us 16 finishing, 24 shooting, 23 playmaking, and 19 defensive badges. Some of the crucial name threshes, that 85 close shot, 91 at least driving layup, the midi to an 80, the 3 ball all the way up to an 88 or higher. The ball handling needs to be an 89 or an 88. Pass actually needs to be an 86. The ball handle needs to be at least an 88, I believe. Don't worry about the speed with ball so much, but you need your perimeter defense and steelies on this two-way to trigger the all-around threat name. But ultimately, you might want to allocate a little bit more towards physicals if you want to play a little bit more modern era game. But you do have liberty to make some variations on this build. If you want it to be a little bit more modern age and athletically imposing, you definitely can skimp out on certain things. You don't need a post control on this build. You can go higher into driving dunk. There's some other blueprints on YouTube that kind of showcase that more meta type all-around threat. But this thing right here is that homegrown late 90s, early 2000s, just pure basketball player that doesn't have the deficiencies that can impact the game with an IQ and the stick work. And there's something organic about not relying on the 2K cheese of the game to just get your buckets. It feels so much more real. Like, this build is just a straight hooper that doesn't rely on certain things to make a splash. This build's for those of you who appreciate the raw purity of the game of basketball that doesn't just rely on all that crazy athleticism that this modern age has become so enamored with. Those of you born before 9/11 should go back and watch some of the all-time greats back in the day. Allen Houston, Steve Smith, Michael Jordan on the Wizards. These guys manufactured buckets for their squads without trying to be all flash in a pan. They understood angles and the IQ of the game. I'm just being an old head ranting now. Let's go on to takeovers. You get shot creator, shooting, playmaking, and defensive take. I like going enhanced jump shot contest and just, doubling down with extreme clamps. We want to make this build an absolute defensive monster. But you're going to end up with one of the rarest names in the history of 2K basketball, the all-around threat. Like I said, I've seen some other blueprints of this all-around threat build on YouTube, but I haven't actually ran into one while playing. And most of those other builds are meta cheese just to get the name that punt a lot of key categories. But my blueprint to me is a little bit more well-rounded. Like I said, homegrown, old head. Let's just play the pure game of basketball the right way. Joe Johnson, Michael Jordan, Jason Kidd, 3 of my favorite players that I modeled my game after. So what do you guys think of this build? Is it not your cup of water because physically it is lacking to a certain extent? Or do you guys respect the purity of the game of basketball? Let me know in the comments, because you know what time it is. Quest Sparrow.